and welcome to Project Mosquito.
A quick release wheel is definitely going to be needed. Yep. Ha! You thought I was going to fall over the sill, didn't you?
Not this time.
So in today's video, I'm going to be finishing off the front engine mount.
And I'm going to be, because we're two very large men that can't work in a very small space, I'm going to be doing some roll cage bracing. It's not a roll cage unless it has a cross brace or a diagonal brace. Now, a diagonal brace runs from the top of the driver's head to a strong point in the chassis, usually, if you can, a suspension mount. And a cross brace does the same thing, but it does it to the driver's side and the passenger's side. Now, the driver's side has to be one continuous piece of tubing. So we have to go from here to just above the engine mount there, because it's all in a line to where our suspension mount is. And if we want to put a cross brace in, which I don't want to do, I don't think it's necessary. And to be honest, it would just be for looks and to make it look more of a rally car. Like that's the only thing that it would do, that and get in the way of my rear view mirror.
So now it's time to make the front gearbox mount. On the original car, this mount wasn't used. It was actually mounted to the rear of the car, which is the bulkhead of a Civic. So now we're going to use these bolts here. 1, 2, 3. We're going to get the bush. I've just put one side in for now. It just makes it easier to use and work with. And basically the bush has got to be as close to here as possible and as high up as possible. If it was here, it'd be a big lever, and all that force, all that leverage will be transmitted into the polyurethane. So basically we want to keep it as tight in as we can, and then have the mount go all the way down to these sides, and spread the load all the way through the chassis. The ladder section here, which is underneath, spreads the load all the way through the car. And then this centre tunnel is also structural, but once it's welded in place it makes a super strong box. So there's a ladder underneath and a super strong box on top, and the mount fits on there and it lines up exactly with the edge of the centre tunnel. So the whole thing is super stiff and super rigid. It all works together to support the engine.
Line, sir.
Well, it won't be when it's pushed over. Now, a couple of mil there, look.
Huzzah!
So I'm roughly going to cut my template out. Cut it out too big, because it's difficult to get in there. Okay, so we've made these two side plates now, so we need to make get the width of the bush and space these two out.
Coilovers are here. We have suspension. Well, shock absorber. I think he may have used all the tape. Right, how do we get in here? You come in to have a look, Dad? He's used all the tape. Now, it's been quite difficult to find suspension, because obviously the Mosquito is a very, very lightweight car, so it's not like you can just go online and say, well, can I have some coilovers for, you know, you can't just go to whatever suspension company and say, oh, have you got some coilovers on your shelf for my, you know, what is it, 620 kilo mid-engine car that uses a Honda back end and a Mazda front end. So it's been a bit of a challenge, but what I have found, what we've come up with, is these. And these are all taped together. How do we get in? Hopefully they're right. There we go. These are EMC single adjustable coilovers. EMC is a French company. These are made completely in France, and they use skiff hardware. I bought them second hand because EMC stuff is insanely expensive. EMC you might not have heard of because they don't really do car stuff, and being French they're a bit obscure, as the French tend to be. But EMC are quite well renowned in the off-road racing world. They do a lot of motocross suspension. They do a lot of like even Paris-Dakar motorcycle suspension and stuff like that. Now these are single adjustable off-road racing buggy coilovers. In France they do a thing called kart cross. Kart cross is like halfway between a Formula car and a quad. And that's what these are actually from. I'm not building a track car, and I don't want super hard spring rates, so that's no good for me. I want something that's really compliant. I want something more akin to an old Alpine A110, a car that actually has weight transfer and roll, and that is a pleasure to drive and moves around on you. And hopefully that's what these will give, because obviously a coilover that's designed to go on really rough bumpy roads and actually do off-road stuff will be really good on a bumpy B road where you've got off-camber turns and crested roads and all of that kind of thing. And hopefully the weight of a kart cross cart is not dissimilar, or the bigger kart cross carts is not dissimilar to the Mosquito with the lengths of the lengths of our suspension arms. So hopefully our spring rates will be somewhat similar. I won't know until I get it on the road. I'll have to drive it and test it and do the whole thing, and then we might end up swapping out springs and all that kind of thing, you never know. But hopefully these will get us somewhere close, and a lot closer than like a Honda Civic suspension would have, or a Honda Civic coilover would have, with like a 10 kilo spring in it. Have you got that MX5 coilover, Dad? Yep. Right, now this is a standard MX5 coilover, and this is the EMC one, obviously. And this is the right way up, it's not upside down. Much like a rally coilover, these are that way up. And these two shocks actually have the same amount of suspension travel. But obviously this is a lot longer than this is. And the reason that's a great thing for us is because I didn't want to make top mounts like this in our car because they're just simply not necessary. But also, this is too long and doesn't fit in under that low bonnet line of the Mosquito. The front end of our little car is so low that you don't want to be putting a big long strut in and then kind of putting chassis on top of that. Like, there was nowhere to put this. Whereas this gives us exactly the same as the factory suspension travel, but in a much smaller package. And it's also a lot lighter, like half the weight. So I am going to have to change the bottom wishbone mount for the shock absorber because this isn't a 1,500 kilo off-roader, obviously, but we can mock it up just for now. The original bolt's way too big. Now, like I said, I did look at formula car suspension, which didn't give us enough travel. Get a cable tie. And I looked at rally suspension, which is all or mostly McPherson strut or Chapman strut, which was no good for us. All the way around. And I looked at like Civic and MX5 suspension, which, although it is double wishbone, is mostly aimed at either slamming a car on the ground or track stuff. Or if you want like a rally shock absorber for those cars, it's super expensive, like $3,000. And hopefully, by getting these fully rebuildable units second hand, I've got a much better thing for a lot less money, a lot less than $3,000 anyway. Still really expensive, don't get me wrong, even second hand EMC units do not come cheap. But, and there are coilovers out there that you can get for an MX5 or a Civic for a lot less than even I paid for these second hand. And there are shock absorbers from reputable companies, but they didn't do what I wanted them to do. And so hopefully these will be far, far better, and they are massive overkill. Being off-road, shock absorbers, they've got mega seals in them. Like I said, they're all skiff seals, and they've got really high performance bushes in them and all of that kind of thing. And they're designed to be, you know, fully submerged in mud and all of that kind of thing. And so they should completely outperform your standard road shock absorber. And just as a comparison, again, that's the size of the original MX5 front strut. And this one, this back one, actually has more suspension travel than this does. Which is kind of crazy. Oh, it looks so cool. Right, I'm going to stand back and look at it now, because I haven't seen it proper yet. It's so cool. You can see that the engine mount lines up with the shock absorber. And so when we make our engine mount shock absorber bracket, they can be the same thing. So that's our diagonal X in. It's only held in with a cable tie right now. It needs pulling up and welding and stuff properly. But it does look a bit odd because it's on such a relaxed angle, and it is going into another tube that isn't supported. But it is supported by a big 3mm thick gusset that's all bent on the other side. That obviously goes into the engine mount and the suspension mount and all that, the shock absorber bracket. So it's going into a super stiff area of the chassis, and this is 40mm diameter tube. So it has a really good cross section to go through, and then it's got a gusset on the other side, so it's not really bending. And there's not really anywhere to put it other than where it is. I didn't want to go any tighter to the engine, because obviously the last thing that I want is the first time this engine decelerates for it to rock forward and tap the roll cage and go dink every time you accelerate the engine. Didn't want that. And obviously the reason why I've brought the roll hoop out the back window is to try and keep the roll cage away from my head, but I still want to keep as much window as possible. So I won't be putting an X in here, simply because it's not needed. The rear of this chassis is way strong enough as it is, and definitely doesn't even need this. It's just there for peace of mind. So I'm not going to put it in because, to be honest, it would be more annoying than it is useful, because I don't plan on crashing this thing anyway. Our next tube is going to go from here down to the sill here.
Should perhaps clean the blood off. It's getting there. It's a long way off, but it's getting there.
We have hit an impasse. Hercules has died.
Poor old Hercules.
Hercules is our long-suffering TIG welder, and I mean long-suffering. This teeny tiny TIG welder has been with us for years. And maybe we should tell the story of Hercules.
Well, Hercules came about because we had a lock-up, a workshop in Spain, and it got broken into, and thousands of euros worth of equipment was stolen, never to be seen again. So we were in the middle of a job, so we had to rush out to the local hardware store, because the only thing that was on, and this is all they had.
And I don't mean like that and several others that are the same in a box. I mean, this one on a shelf, not in a box. Like, it was even the display model. They're like, yes, we have Hercules. And I think that's probably YouTube's first eulogy for a TIG welder.
Yeah.
Hercules, you shall be missed. However, we are replacing him with something far, far superior, which we would have done years ago if we could. And our new TIG welder will be AC/DC, meaning it can weld aluminium.
As well as steel.
Yep, for the first time ever. We've wanted to weld aluminium and make stuff out of aluminium for years and years and years and not been able to. And we finally will be able to, so that'd be awesome. But yeah, that's why we've just been like tacking things together and holding things together with cable ties and stuff for now, because we've done as much as we can with what we've got. But unfortunately,
Till he died.
yep, Hercules is no more. And but you've enjoyed it, this engine mount process, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been good.
Dad has spent, I know you've just watched like a 20-something minute video, and that thing looks awesome, but that has not taken 20-something minutes.
Which he did.
Well, it's been about a week and a half of work, and I've just been doing tubes simply because this car's a bit like building a giant model. It's not like building a real car, is it? It's a scale model of a car that's just slightly small to the point where it's inconvenient. And so that we're not working on top of each other. You know, like when one person's using a workbench, another person has to use trestles and stuff like that. And so I've just been trying to keep out the way, really, and do stuff that can be done. And that often happens around here, but I've enjoyed it as well, because I haven't done stuff with tubes since last year. So, but I'm really happy with how it's coming along. We've nearly finished the back of the chassis now.
Yep, and we can get onto the rear suspension, get all that aligned,
Yep.
and then we can move forward to the front.
Suspension geometry. The job I have been dreading.
It's all good fun.
It's just lots of maths. And as you know, my brain don't do numbers. I'm not mathematically inclined, shall we say. But yeah, super, super proud of it. And one of the nicest things for me doing YouTube is that I get, especially working with you, is that I get to watch you make stuff the way that you've always wanted to make it. Because like when we've worked together in the past,
What do you mean in a freezing cold garage?
yes, in this morning it was -11 when we started work. But no, actually, this is the most luxury accommodation we've had in years, and you know it.
It's got a roof.
Yeah,
And electricity.
yeah. When we drop a tool, it doesn't fall in the sea.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
It's always a bonus.
Seriously, like anything that can be dropped in the sea was dropped in the sea, and we probably spent thousands replacing tools. Just like, oh, there's no point buying nice screwdrivers anymore. But no, what I mean by that is, it's nice to be able to watch you spend the time that you want to spend to make something.
Yeah.
Because when you're making stuff, like, people will only pay so much for stuff. And when you're an engineer, you work with time and money, whether it's, you know, parts for a train or parts for an aircraft, or, you know, it's all set up as time and money as a production line. And then when we've been self-employed, we've worked for time and money. You know, your materials and then your labour. But doing YouTube, we don't have to really think about that. We just make the coolest possible thing that we can make. And that's this car in what do you call it?
Gestation.
Well, I was going to say, like, in general, you know, everything is as good as we can make it. The whole car will be as good as we can make it. But it's also nice to just concentrate on one small part.
Yeah.
Even if it's one small part that's at the back of the firewall and no one will ever see ever again.
Well, that doesn't matter.
No.
As long as it's there. We
Yeah.
know it's there.
Yeah. And like Dad wants to paint the roll cage satin black. So, so not only will it not be visible, but it will be in the darkest part of the engine bay, painted that black. You might as well camouflage it. But I'm really happy with how it's coming along, you know. And it's nice to know that every single part of the car is as beautiful as we can make it, including our new shock absorbers, which is nice. I forgot that happened. I'm a bit like a goldfish in this workshop. Anything that's not right in front of me, anything that's not the thing that I'm working on, just doesn't exist. And And yeah, we've got shock absorbers now, which is amazing because I've spent hundreds of hours trying to find them shock absorbers because those could not be better if we'd have custom ordered them.
Nope.
They are perfect for the application. Absolutely bob on perfect. So, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to please support this channel by clicking like, subscribing, and clicking the bell icon. It's a huge deal. And it means that we can keep making beautiful things and you can keep watching us make beautiful things. And hopefully learn something along the way or, you know, just sympathize with us that we're in a freezing cold workshop. So thank you all for watching. Please be awesome to each other. And we'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.